reason why we have hearings of necessity. And it relates to the fact that we've got a lot of people in the room who've been helpful to the process. But one person who is not in the room is the Minister of Transportation. And it's the Minister of Transportation who has to make the decision on behalf of our province whether to take away Ms. Harcourt's home or not. As you know, with all due respect, even you as the inquiry officer, don't make that decision. You're just trying to prepare a report to make recommendations to the minister based on the facts. And then the minister is going to have to, in a way that's not delegated, exercise the authority to enact an extraordinary power to take away a property that Ms. Harcourt has owned since 1986, that she lives in, that her son lives in, that a tenant with accessibility issues lives in, that her grandson lives in as an alternative to foster care. The minister is going to have to decide whether that property should be taken away. And what we're here to do today is to evaluate all the issues, the process, whether it's transparent, whether Ms. Harcourt should be able to sleep at night knowing that she's being treated fairly. And I'm trying to help with this report. I've got a few notes of a summary that I'd use. I didn't have the opportunity to draft written submissions following, but sorry, just got a few extra. Let me do. So I've tried to summarize in a concise way the facts, and I feel like we may have gone astray from some. And in fairness, but that's in part on me. Oh, you know what? I gave away all my copies. I need to give one back. No, I've got one. I've got one. I'm sorry. That's not nice of me. Okay. So I'd like to just go through a few points and then elaborate on it. I don't think there's any question that Lori Harcourt has owned and lived in this house since 1986. She's talked about what this house means to her. She's talked about how it's part of her life, her emotional attachment to it, how she needs it for where she is. She's talked about the people living in it and how they need it. She's talked about her hairdressing business that's been there for 27 years. Why the location is needed because of her lack of driving. Why she wants to be in the community that she's grown up in. Why her clients need to be in downtown Caledonia. We heard about how in 2014 Ms. Harcourt was approached by the ministry for the works relating to the Grand River Bridge. Since that time, we heard about how the ministry has sought access to her property to do what's necessary. And what's necessary? They need part of the land permanently for the bridge works. They tried to expropriate that in 2015, but then just didn't do it. They need a temporary working interest for Part 13. They tried to expropriate that. They started the process in 2015, then decided not to do it. And we've heard evidence that the ministry needs to monitor Ms. Harcourt's house. First, to do some preliminary testing to see what mitigation is necessary, to have some monitors in there during construction, and even to maybe monitor it after construction. They've talked about safety, but the evidence has only said they need to do that, and there has been no evidence supported by any facts or documents which show why Ms. Harcourt can't stay in her house during that time. If for whatever reason, Ms. Harcourt does have to leave her house, we're being told that it might be at year 1, might be at year 3, but it's for a 33-month period. And the ministry says, well, we don't want that, because we've done a cost-benefit analysis. A cost-benefit analysis that's based on documents that they're not even prepared to give us. Documents that have been paid for by the taxpayers. Documents that ensure transparency to this process and fair treatment, but they're not going to give it to us. Documents that only could have been created because Ms. Harcourt let the ministry into her home. And now they're saying, we're not giving you those documents, just trust us. We're going to make sure you're properly compensated. And we're going to give a memorandum to explain our business case that's supposed to go to the minister. Why, based on these documents, we need the home. We can't just take it temporarily, but we can't see them. And then we've got documents that show that the ministry needs us for 108 months. But we heard engineering evidence today why the ministry needs it for 33 months. That's not consistent. That doesn't seem like it really explains why the ministry has to take away Ms. Harcourt's home. And to be clear, from the beginning, and so recently as 11 days ago, Ms. Harcourt has offered the ministry the required interest in her home in an agreement pursuant to the Expropriations Act to ensure due process and fair compensation. Ms. Harcourt is not saying you have to pay me this much money. She's just saying I want to be treated fairly and I want my rights protected the way Ontario's legislature decided to protect people's rights when the government takes their property without consent. When the government needs an interest in someone's property, they are to be compensated in accordance with the Expropriations Act. And Ms. Harcourt is prepared to do that. But we've heard evidence that the Ministry of Transportation, after going back and forth, has said, no, we're not going to give you that. We want to get in the house for free, or for limited compensation, or for our version of compensation. And at first they said, yes, we'll pay your out-of-pocket costs. And as Mr. Wellerman helpfully pointed out, originally they made those commitments, and then you know what they did? They changed their mind. After they were about to get a deal, they said, no, we're not paying you anymore. And it's kind of like dragging the carrot, and you try to reach for it, and they keep pulling it further back. That's what we're seeing here. Ms. Harcourt is prepared to give them all their access, but they're saying, oh yeah, well, we want it now, and we don't want to pay you in accordance with our own legislation. And what happens if you don't give us that access? We're going to take your entire property away. We're going to take away the home that you've lived in for 33 years. We're going to not give you any assurances, and we heard this today very helpfully from the project engineer, that she can't give any assurances that they're going to help her find a home. She did say that they compensate her in accordance with the Expropriations Act, which means by the time Ms. Harcourt's home is taken away, the ministry is going to offer her its version of market value. Nothing else, not for her business, not for equivalent reinstatement, not for moving expenses, not for any of her tenants, not for any special difficulties in relocating, not to address any accessibility issues of her tenants, nothing. Just they're saying we're going to take your house away, and all we're going to give you once your house is taken away is compensation for our version of market value. And after that, you have to fight about every single thing. And based on the conduct we've seen to date, I believe a reasonable person could call into question how long that's going to take and how easy that's going to be. So really what this is about, and I'm going to try the test, I'd like to be able to explain it while I'm on one foot. Ministry only needs temporary access to her house and limited access, but is not prepared to pay compensation under the Expropriations Act. And if Ms. Harcourt does not agree to this, it's going to take away her entire house for no other reason other than the fact that she's not agreeing to it. I'm allowed to get on 2 feet again. So again, there's been no assurance how Ms. Harcourt can relocate, where her family's going to go, and how compensation will make her whole. This is not about compensation. We're not deducing evidence as to what she should be paid. All we're saying is that her rights should be protected, and that the minister should make a responsible decision where he doesn't take her home away simply because she's not prepared to give temporary access on the ministry's unilaterally dictated terms. Ms. Harcourt has a concern that she might not have a home. And I'll close this by stating Ms. Harcourt gave her evidence. She's not looking for a windfall. She simply wishes to keep her home and business and lifestyle. And in my submission, she should be treated with respect by the minister, and the minister should make a responsible decision here and figure out a way to let her stay in her home. Subject to any questions, those are my submissions.